On November 3rd, 2018, a private contractor named Brian Callahan clocked in for a routine overnight security guard shift at the Harmon Industrial Complex in Oklahoma. But by sunrise, he had resigned. He didn't file an incident report. He didn't claim injury. He simply refused to ever step foot on the property again. This is why he quit. I stopped walking. The beam shook because my hand was shaking. Whatever I'd seen was gone now, just the reflection of broken glass and darkness behind it. But I knew what I saw. A figure, standing still, then suddenly gone. Let me back up a little bit. About 3 hours earlier, I had pulled into the gravel lot of the Harmon Industrial Complex for my first night on the job. The place had been shut down for 11 years. Some kind of chemical manufacturing, though the company that hired me for security was vague about the details. They were vague about a lot of things. The guy who trained me, Dale, spent maybe 20 minutes walking me through the basics. Here's your flashlight. Here's your radio. Here's the patrol route. Check the perimeter every 2 hours. Log anything unusual. What counts as unusual? I asked. Dale just looked at me for a second. You'll know. He left before sunset. I watched his taillights disappear down the access road, and then it was just me and 6 buildings of rusted metal and broken concrete spread across 12 acres of nothing. The security office was a trailer near the front gate. It had a space heater that barely worked, a bank of monitors connected to cameras that hadn't functioned in years, and a logbook filled with entries from previous guards. Most of them were boring. Checked east perimeter, all clear. Checked loading dock, all clear. But some of them weren't. One entry from 6 months ago just said, heard footsteps in building 4. Did not investigate. Will not investigate. Another, from 3 weeks back. Someone walking behind me during patrol. Never saw anyone. Request day shift transfer. I told myself these were pranks. Hazing the new guy. The guards got bored and wrote creepy stuff to mess with whoever came next. It made sense. The first patrol went fine. I walked the perimeter with my flashlight, checked the locks on the main doors, shined my beam through a few windows. The buildings were just buildings. Old machines, conveyor belts, piles of debris that nobody had bothered to clean up. The smell was industrial. Oil and rust and something faintly chemical underneath it all. By 11, I was back in the trailer, drinking bad coffee and watching nothing happen on the dead monitors. The quiet was heavy, not peaceful, heavy. All of a sudden I heard a rhythmic tapping, metal on metal, coming from somewhere outside toward the east wing. I sat up and listened. Tap, 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 pause, tap, 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 pause. A pattern, consistent. Almost like someone was trying to get my attention. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped outside. The cold hit me immediately. That late autumn cold that gets into your bones. I stood there, scanning the darkness, and the tapping stopped. Just wind, I thought. Loose sheet metal. This place was falling apart. I went back inside. Midnight patrol. I decided to be thorough, prove to myself that there was nothing here but rats and rust. I started with Building 1, the old administrative offices. My footsteps echoed on the concrete floors, cubicle frames without walls, desks with nothing on them. Building 2 was storage, shelves stretching up into darkness. My flashlight couldn't reach the ceiling. I walked the aisles quickly, not liking how the shadows moved at the edges of my vision. Probably just the beam shifting. Probably. Building 3 was where I found the first thing I couldn't explain. It was a small room off the main floor, maybe an old break room. There was a table in the center, 4 chairs around it, and on the table, arranged in a neat row, were 5 flashlights. All of them were turned on. I stood in the doorway, not stepping inside. The flashlights were identical to mine. Same model, their beams pointed at the wall, creating overlapping circles of light. I counted them again. 5. According to Dale, I was the only guard assigned to this site. According to the logbook, there had been 3 guards before me in the past year, and all of them had quit. I backed out of the room and didn't check the rest of Building 3. By 1 in the morning, I was back in the trailer, trying to convince myself that the flashlights meant nothing. Previous guards left equipment behind. The company recycled gear. Someone had arranged them as a joke. Probably Dale. Probably laughing about it right now. The radio crackled. There was a voice, faint, buried in static. I grabbed the radio and held it to my ear. "Checking in." The voice was garbled. "All clear on." "Repeat," I said. "Dispatch, this is Site 7, do you copy?" Static. Then clearly, my own voice came through the speaker. "Repeat, dispatch, this is Site 7, do you copy?" Exact words, exact inflection, like someone had recorded me and played it back. I dropped the radio. It clattered on the desk, still hissing. I stared at it, waiting for it to speak again. It didn't. I told myself it was a malfunction, radio signals bouncing weird, an echo in the equipment. It happened sometimes, I told myself. It didn't happen like that. I knew it didn't happen like that. 2 a.m. I should have done another patrol, but I couldn't make myself leave the trailer. I sat there with the door locked, watching the dead monitors, listening to the silence. That's when I noticed the monitor in the corner. Camera 6. It wasn't dead. The image was grainy, black and white, but it was showing something. A hallway. Building 4, according to the label at the bottom of the screen. And in the hallway, standing perfectly still, was a figure. It was shaped like a person. Head, shoulders, arms, legs. But something was wrong with the proportions. The arms were too long. The head was tilted at an angle that would hurt if you held it for more than a second. I watched the monitor. The figure didn't move, didn't breathe, just stood there, facing the camera. Then it raised a hand and waved. Slowly, deliberately, like it knew I was watching. I'm not proud of what I did next. I should have called someone. I should have left. Instead, I grabbed my flashlight and walked toward Building 4. I don't know why. Maybe I needed to prove it wasn't real. Or maybe I had to prove to myself I wasn't scared. Building 4 was the largest structure on the site, the main production floor. My flashlight barely made a dent in the darkness. I found the hallway from the camera feed, 3rd corridor on the left. Empty. I walked the length of it, checking every door, every corner. Nothing. No figure. No sign that anyone had been there. I was about to turn back when I heard footsteps behind me. Not running, walking, matching my pace exactly. I stopped. The footsteps stopped. I took a step, and a step echoed behind me. I spun around, flashlight raised. The hallway was empty, but the footsteps had been close, within arm's reach. "Who's there?" My voice echoed back, Then from somewhere deeper in the building, my voice echoed again. "Who's there?" Same words, same voice, but the second echo came from a different direction. I ran. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I ran through the production floor, past the dead machines and the piles of debris toward the exit. My flashlight beam swung wildly, catching glimpses of things that might have been shadows and might have been something else. I burst through the door into the cold night air and kept running until I reached the trailer. I slammed the door behind me and locked it. For a few minutes, nothing happened. I stood there, gasping, trying to slow my heartbeat. Maybe I'd imagined it. Maybe the stress was getting to me. First night on a new job, creepy location, power of suggestion. I don't know. Then I looked at the monitor. Camera 6. The figure was back in the hallway, but it wasn't alone anymore. There were two of them now, standing side by side, same posture, same tilted heads, same wrong proportions. And as I watched, they both raised their hands and waved. 3 a.m. I tried the radio again. Nothing but static. I tried my cell phone. No signal. The trailer felt smaller than it had before, the walls pressing in. I told myself I'd wait until dawn. Just a couple more hours. That's when I heard the tapping again. Metal on metal. But this time it wasn't coming from outside. It was coming from the roof of the trailer. Tap, tap, tap. Tap, tap, tap. The same pattern. Exactly the same. Then a new sound. Footsteps on the roof. Moving in a slow circle directly above me. I grabbed the flashlight like a weapon and pressed myself against the wall. The footsteps stopped at the corner of the trailer, right above the door. The door handle turned. I knew I'd locked it, but the handle turned anyway, slowly. Then it knocked. And it spoke, with my own freaking voice. "Repeat? Dispatch? This is Site 7, do you copy?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. I stood frozen, watching the door, watching the handle stop turning. Silence. Then the voice spoke again. "You will know." Dale's words, from my memory, from a conversation that happened hours ago, when I was alone with him. Whatever was outside the door, it had been listening. It had been listening to everything. I backed away from the door until I hit the desk. My hand found the logbook, and I opened it to a random page, just needing something to focus on. The entry was from 2 months ago. The handwriting was shaky, barely legible. It learns. It copies. Don't let it know your voice. Don't let it know your face. If it learns you, it becomes you, and then you become nothing. Below that, a different pen, a different hand. I think it's already learned me. I can hear myself outside. I've been hearing myself for hours. I don't know which one of me is writing this. The knocking stopped at some point. I don't know when. I stayed pressed against that wall until the first grey light of dawn started to show through the trailer's small window. When I finally opened the door, the gravel lot was empty. The building stood silent. Everything looked exactly as it had when I'd arrived. I walked to my car on legs that barely worked. I was going to leave. I was going to drive away and never come back. But when I reached the car, I stopped. There was someone standing by the front gate, a figure in a security uniform. It was my own uniform. Same height, same build, same posture. It had its back to me, but as I watched, its head started to turn. Slowly, too slowly, the neck rotating further than it should. I got in my car. I didn't look back. I just drove. I quit the job, obviously. I called the company and told them I wasn't coming back. The woman on the phone wasn't surprised. She just asked if I'd seen anything unusual. I didn't answer. I just hung up. I keep my curtains closed. I don't answer when someone knocks. And I try not to think about that logbook entry, about what it means to be learned. Last night I heard something outside my door. Footsteps, pacing, slowly, back and forth. Then a knock. 3 knocks, and a voice. My voice. Repeat. Dispatch. This is Site 7. Do you copy?